The greatest mistake you can make during your college interview is simply treating it like a resume regurgitation. Luckily, the solution to that is treating it just like a conversation. So now that you know your answer, you can click off the video. No, I'm kidding. Please stay for the video for some of my own rambling thoughts on the whole entire college interview process coming from someone who's a Yale Alumni School Committee interviewer. How's it going, y'all? My name is Arnold Sidiati, and I graduated Yale with a double major in theater and poli-sci. And if you need any help with getting into college or anything, feel free to hit me up and check out my resources down below. I have a Fiverr page, a website, an email at arnold.sidiati@aya.yale.edu, and the comment sections, just let me know. And as I mentioned, I'm also a Yale alumni who volunteers my time to interview high school students who apply to Yale, who are interested in getting in, and I also write a report and I send it to the admissions office. And of course, I don't want to breach my duty of confidentiality, but I think it's interesting to provide a perspective from the interviewer, because I feel like a lot of high school students nowadays are so worried, like, oh my gosh, I'm getting interviewed. Is this like a do or die type of situation? You know, who's going to interview me? What should I say? What should I do? So this hopefully can provide some stress relief, because it's coming from someone who interviews kids who both get into and not get into these universities. This idea came from a student who reached out to me on Fiverr, where we actually did a mock interview. And your situation is probably something like this, where you apply to a bunch of different schools and then you start getting emails from alumni who are like, hey, thank you for applying to X college. I would love to interview you and learn more about your experience. And then from there, you figure out whether it's going to be a phone call, a Zoom interview, or even meeting in person. Probably very similar to me when I got interviewed by my Yale alumni interviewer, oh my gosh, like 6 years ago. I was very nervous, I was very frantic, I didn't know how to prepare for it at all. So the main big picture piece of advice that I can give you is really double down on this idea of truly treating it like a conversation. This is not an exam, this is not a test. You have to keep in mind that the interviewers are literally people like me, right? So these are kids who might have just graduated Yale. We'll use Yale as an example. These are kids who maybe just graduated from Yale, or even alumni who are like decades older than you, right? An important thing to consider is that the reason why you got the interview in the first place is due to availability and location. For example, I'm from Connecticut originally, so I only interview other kids from Connecticut, which means that, you know, it's not merit-based or anything. So if you don't get an interview, don't worry about it too much. But if you do get an interview, I would definitely say that you should take it. The reason why I say you should take it is because the interview is a great opportunity to showcase your personality and your vibes, you know, in person. Because the only other factors on your application are the ones that the admissions office is seeing, right? Those are the numbers. So that's like the resume, the extracurriculars, the grades, the test scores, the letters of recommendation, the essays. Those things paint a really great picture of who you are, but there's just something that can't be replaced by an actual human interaction, right? So once again, you have to understand that this alumni interviewer, me in this situation, I don't know anything about you. I'm not getting your Common App essays. I'm not getting your grades, your test scores, nothing. It's pretty much a clean slate. But I do know your name, so I might want to be able to LinkedIn search you or whatever. But to be honest with you, you know, we did this mandatory training, and an important thing, which isn't breaching my duty of confidentiality, an important thing is treating it, you know, as unbiased as possible. I'm truly just trying to get to know you as a human, as a person, and understand the way you think and how you can fit onto the campus. Truly, for my end, is I'm assigned a person who is in my region. You know, I have your name. I don't really have your background that is provided by the admissions office. Remember, they are the ones who are actually doing the heavyweight decision making. But what I am responsible for is, you know, scheduling the interview, maybe doing a LinkedIn search or whatever, and simply just having like a 15 to 45, maybe an hour conversation with you, and just understanding who you are as a person. How do you think? What are your vibes? How would you fit on campus? What are your academic interests? What are your extracurricular interests? And once again, sorry to sound super repetitive, because the admissions office, those people are the ones who are actually making the important decisions on whether or not you get in or not. This is an opportunity for you to not simply regurgitate or list out your resume. Don't sound like a LinkedIn robot. Don't, don't worry too much about trying to get every single little detail in there, right? Because at the end of the day, when I write my report, you know, I don't think it's useful to give a report to the admissions office that says something like, oh, this person was great because they were the captain of their varsity soccer team, and then they did this, and then they were the whatever it's called, the school governance council president. That stuff isn't useful to them in my report, because guess what? They already have that information. So what's more important is that I'm writing something like, oh my gosh, I really loved having a conversation with them. They seemed super kind, sweet. They were, you know, smiling and gave a very authentic energy. They told me this specific story about how much they loved their brother. You know, you just genuinely want to treat it like a conversation, not like an interview or like you're getting interrogated. But you also have to be prepared to connect with anybody, right? You know, if you're lucky, you could get somebody younger like me, you know what I mean, who studied the arts or whatever. but you could also get somebody who's a bit older, who maybe doesn't have the same, extracurricular interests as you, academic interests as you. They're in a different field entirely. So you also have to be prepared for that. And once again, the only way to be prepared for that is to truly just this is gonna sound super cliche, but do some push-ups, take a warm shower, go on a jog, go on a run, really just clear your mind and clear your nerves, especially if you're doing it on Zoom. Double check to make sure that your Zoom is good so all the external factors are out of the way. Do some push-ups literally right before you start your interview, because that's gonna get you out of your head. And us as interviewers, we are trained to guide the conversation and reassure you. Once again, you might be nervous right now, but we're not testing you, right? This is not an exam. And they should be able to guide the conversation. And whenever they ask a question, make sure that you're as specific as possible, but you're speaking from a place of truth. And if they're a bad interviewer, they will not ask you good questions. So that's why you should be proactive in talking about your story in a not superficial manner. Remember, not just listing out resume points. Don't look on the other side of your computer, split the tabs, one Zoom and one is like your resume, simply reciting it. I've definitely done that before, but really just trying to, speak from the heart and tell them how you truly feel about things, Treat it like a professional conversation with a good friend. Once again, this is gonna sound super cliche, but you gotta treat it like a conversation, and overall, it's gonna be what is the vibe and this is gonna sound super weird, but what are the vibes that I'm picking up from you? Are you nervous? Are you genuinely passionate about the things you talk about? A lot of the times, it might not even be about what exactly you say, but it's how you say it, right? Let's say you're very passionate about environmental change and you talk about a project you've done and you're very specific about it, and then you explain the why. And I think the why is something you gotta dig into, because we wanna understand why you love the things that you do. You could allude to some of the things that you mentioned in your comment app to help you warm up a little bit and ease into that, but ultimately, this is truly your chance. I just want to keep on saying this point where you can treat it like a conversation and genuinely talk about what you love, and also ask us questions, right? It can be a conversation. Let's say, I ask you okay, what is one of your most favorite extracurricular involvements in school? And then you say, I don't know, what is Model United Nations. And then you talk about, I love Model United Nations because of this, but then you dig deeper, because remember, it's not a resume. You dig deeper and you explain why. I love this because, it pays homage to the time when I was a kid and blah, 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 blah. And, speak from the heart, be authentic, be natural. And then you could spin it on me speaking of Model United Nations, I noticed that on your LinkedIn, you did Model United Nations. And that comes with doing research beforehand. That's also an important thing. But if you didn't do research beforehand, you can say speaking of Model United Nations, I heard Yale has a great program on that. Do you mind talking to me a little bit about that, right? So it can be a conversation, it's not just a strict question and answer, those sort of oh my gosh. I mean, for the high school students, hopefully y'all don't have to do the the job interview, internships, where I forgot what it was called, but you have a webcam in front of you, and there's a robot that has a text on the screen that asks a question, a behavioral question, and then you have 10 seconds to prepare for it, and you have to respond to a robot getting recorded in a minute and a half. Sorry, that was a random tangent. So yeah, a great way for it to be conversation is to ask me questions and to be specific with them. And once again, it is tricky, I'll give you that, because they ultimately want to know about you and writing about you. So don't treat it like a complete conversation, because if you end up just asking us questions, we're not going to be able to learn about you, which is not the best thing. But truly, take a deep breath, do something that'll clear your mind out beforehand, and remember, hey, no matter what happens, this is just a great opportunity for me to connect with them on a personal level. I trust that, the admissions office already has the major substantial items, right? The recommendations, the essays, the grades, the test scores, all of the very important factors are already there. This is just a potential additive thing that I can do. And the best way I can do it, once again, is not by being a robot, but truly doubling down and treating it like a genuine conversation to be had, where you're asking questions, you're being specific, you're doing the research beforehand, you're getting out of your head, you're not trying to memorize, stories or anecdotes. It's great to have anecdotes and stories beforehand, but don't try to memorize it, right? A lot of the great stuff happens in that spontaneous moment where you're just talking to them and something gets brought up. Let's say, you're both from Connecticut, and then you joke around about that and say oh my gosh, I'm from Connecticut. You're from Connecticut? Yeah, where exactly? And y'all can just riff off of each other. Remember, professional conversation, show a side that the admissions office hasn't seen, because ultimately you want us to write a very specific and detailed report that is advocating for you. Once you're done with the interview, congratulations. I would recommend that you send a follow-up email that's very simple. Hey Arnold, thank you so much for talking with me. I'm very humbled that you took time out of your busy day, or whatever they say nowadays. And then you could say, thank you for this opportunity. Loved learning about Yale's programs. I hope you have a great day. Nice and simple. I would personally recommend sending that the day after, because, you know, as interviewers, we have to send this report to the alumni office pretty quickly, within a day or two, maximum 3 days. So on the off chance we send it that same night, we'll likely have a good memory of it already, right? So you don't have to do a follow-up email strategically. It doesn't really matter, because we already remember the thing. Like, you know, we do the interview ends, and I'm writing the report, boom. Like, the follow-up interview doesn't really help. The follow-up email doesn't really help in that strategic sense. It is great for just like saying thank you in general, right? And just like building a long-term relationship with the person. But the reason why I say the day after is because on the off chance they do it that same night, it's useless to send the email that same night because we already sent it. But on the off chance they don't, sending it the day after sets another reminder to me, like, oh my gosh, yeah, I did love that conversation. And maybe you could mention like one specific thing that happened that you talked about. Maybe it's like a football team that you both relate to or whatever. And once again, I'm rambling so much, but I think the main point of this video, especially when I did the mock interview trial session with the student on Fiverr, is that, you know, you truly want to treat this like a professional, like a semi-professional conversation. We just want to get to know who you are, your personality traits. We're not interrogating you. It's not an exam. It's not the time for you to regurgitate your LinkedIn. Once again, the admissions office, they're making the heavy decisions on whether you get in or not. They have all those other important factors. So this is just another element of the, you know, of the many aspects of your application.
What else is there?
So yeah, sorry for this rambly video, but really it's just having a great conversation, professional conversation, where you are as authentically yourself as possible. That's the #1 solution. It really is just like, you gotta be yourself on a good day, you know what I mean? Don't try to fake anything. If you're not funny, don't try to force humor, because that is just more evident on camera or more evident in person. You know, don't be somebody or something that you're not. Be yourself, do the follow-up emails, talk passionately about your class, your interest in academics, your interest in extracurriculars, why you do the way you do, your hobbies, your interests, your passions, because once again, the reason why you're gonna get chosen into a college is because of who you are as a person, not who you are as an academic weapon. I know there's some exceptions to that, but I know for Yale, personally, we have this motto of embracing and rather than or. And means that you can do something and something else rather than choosing between that thing or another thing. And that's another important thing, actually. You should research the qualities of the school that you're getting interviewed for. For example, like we said at Yale, it's like liberal arts, it's collaboration, it's intellectual curiosity. And just try to think about how your values, or like who you are, how you align with those values, right? So for me, for example, I'm like, you know what? I'm a very creative person. I love doing theater arts. I love helping out people through student government. So you're kind of just priming your brain to make those connections with the universities. And to be honest, most colleges have pretty similar values. I know some colleges place more importance on research, for example, and other colleges place more importance on like that liberal arts sort of idea. So, I mean, this kind of goes without saying. I don't want to give a cliche piece of advice, but really just do your research beforehand. And that includes searching my name up, you know, who I am when I graduated, all that stuff. And also looking up at Yale and Yale's programs and extracurriculars and classes. And take a deep breath. It's okay. I know that you don't know everything. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't even commit to Yale or whatever. So just calm down, be yourself, have fun. I don't know why it took me so long to say that. Have flipping fun during the process. And yeah, I'm rambling now, but please let me know if you have any other questions. If you need any help, look in the description down below, comment, spread the love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you all so much.